Hi, Doug. It's great to be talking to you once more. Thank you so much for your availability. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good, thanks, Daniel. Always good. Just enjoying a little free time at home before we hit the road in about a month, and then we're looking for trouble. Looking for trouble's coming out in a couple weeks, so it's all good stuff going on.
Yeah, I'm looking for Trouble is coming out on the 30th of May, and it's not a regular Dead Daisies album. Do you want to go a little bit through the details of this album? You know, what happened, what led to it, everything.
Yeah, so basically we were looking for a place to write together for a new album for our last album, Light 'Em Up. And we decided to go down to Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and we found a studio called Fame Studios. It was very famous. You know, it's had a lot of from Aretha Franklin and Wilson Pickett and a lot of blues artists. You know, and Dwayne Allman worked there back in the early days, and um, a lot of musicians were famous coming in and out of that studio. So we wanted to go somewhere new to write, and we went there and it was just very inspiring, you know. So our writing was going really well, and every day the studio would have a tour come in, you know, where they would basically, you know, we'd stop what we're doing and people would come in and they'd give it a tour of talking about, hey, this is the same room where, you know, Aretha Franklin worked or Etta James or whatever, and talking about a lot of old blues artists and um, we started realizing we're really close to where that whole blues thing happened. And it just inspired us to maybe just for fun, you know, to go in the studio and play through some blues tracks. And eventually we decided, let's just try to let's see what happens. Let's make it our own and see what happens. And it just turned into a fun side project during our writing sessions. And I wasn't for sure that it was going to be an album, but here we are. It's coming out.
Yeah, man, and I'm really happy that it's coming out because the world deserves to hear these covers. Of course, the songs were originally very good, but you made them your own, and they're actually better, I think. And so, well, Fame Studios is one of the most iconic studios out there. How was the feeling of recording these tracks in that environment?
It was it was really inspiring. It was a little bit nerve wracking because, you know, you're like, wow, I want to make sure I play good, you know, on these songs because this is where it all started. You know, we're
Mhm.
in Alabama, in that part of Alabama, it's close to where the crossroads are in Mississippi. It's very close.
Mhm.
And so it's just like they call it, you know, it's sacred ground, you know, so it was a little bit of pressure to like, let's do something really good here, you know, and you know the people that worked in the studio and the studio itself has seen a lot of great musicians coming through. So I really wanted to play good. Everybody did. You know, everybody really wanted to do a good job in what we were writing and then ultimately what we recorded. And it's basically, you know, we did it live. We didn't go back and fix the guitar parts or change anything. We basically cut it. We played through the songs uh, and then record them live. So it felt great, but it was a little pressure too, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, you're all very experienced and talented musicians, and these are songs that you played all your lives, right?
You know what the difference is, Daniel, is that we were going for like once we got our feet wet with it, we started going through it. We decided let's go for some old, really old vintage tones. You know, let's use some smaller amps and different stuff. So it was a little, you know, it was different. It wasn't like, you know, full blown heavy rock
Mhm.
like we're known for, or like what for me, speaking for myself, that's what I've been doing since I was a kid, is playing the same way, you know, just loud rock and roll. And this was something a little different. This had a little more this was more clarity, and it definitely you know, less is more on the guitar playing. So I had to kind of rethink stuff, not rethink, but because I wasn't thinking, I was just playing. But I had to get myself in a position where I was open to just keeping it very simple.
Yeah, man, and it worked. And you were just saying that you decided to record all of this live. I mean, it gave a different setting to the record as well, right?
Yeah, it's definitely different than Light 'Em Up. It was just we got going and it was like two different mindsets that we had going.
Mhm.
So we had the writing for the rock album, and that was more kind of normal comfort zone. And then later in the day, we'd work on the blues record, and wow, it was just like it was really it was really fun. It was really challenging.
Yeah, first you worked, then you had some fun playing these blues tracks and other art as well. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and challenging ourselves a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And what was the process of selecting the songs that are on this album? Was there any special criteria behind it?
No, we all just kind of like every day or once we started, somebody would say, "Hey, let's." One of the first ones I think we worked on was Crossroads, and um, we started playing it just in the traditional way. Eventually, um, eventually we decided let's do our own spin for it, and we took it with a different groove. We had we had Sarah Tomac with us on drums. And like I say, we weren't there to record. We were there to basically write. And Sarah's a great studio artist, and she's a great live drummer too. But we needed a drummer, and Sarah came as a session artist. And thankfully, she's really smart with blues grooves and stuff. And so we said, for Crossroads, let's try something a little different. And she gave us a groove, and that made me think about more of a slide part instead of the regular pull off kind of guitar part. And then somebody would just bring up a song. Hey guys, what about Black Betty? Let's do something with Black Betty. So it was like just at the last minute. Like if you ask me right now, give us another blues song or whatever, I would just go, okay, well, how about Hellhound on My Trail or whatever? And we go, okay, cool. Let's listen to the original, and then we'd start to tear it down and do our own thing with it.
Yeah, I mean, it was also a fun process. And now, did you rearrange them in any way, the songs, or you just like by feeling what feels right in each song?
Yeah, we basically opened a huge box. We opened a huge can of worms there. Or that's a saying that people use, but we basically just went crazy on it. It's like, what could we do? So like, it was what can we do that's different with this song? For example, we're talking about Black Betty. Black Betty has a few different versions, and there's a very famous Black Betty version by a band called Ram Jam. And Ram Jam's version is kind of like the famous rock one. We didn't want to. Other people have covered that, and it was already done. And the original version is really cool. So we thought we could do something different. Let's break it down, and kind of how would Jimi Hendrix want to play something like that, or how would Billy Gibbons? So that's where I was thinking about, like, and I just brought up Billy Gibbons because Black Betty ended up being kind of like almost like a Texas blues
Mhm.
type of four on the floor type of thing. And but if you listen to the original was just a vocal line. That's all it was. So it was an open canvas to do whatever we wanted to do.
It's called Looking for Trouble. And is there any story behind the album title?
Yeah, basically, those blues artists back in the day, they basically went down to that area looking for trouble. They they were also free living musicians, like a lot of drinking and chasing women and chasing men and a lot of crazy times, but basically going down to the crossroads to sell your soul to the devil is they were looking for trouble, so that's it kind of hit, it kind of stuck, you know. I think Michael Devin was the one that came up with it, and it was like, yeah, that's it, man. The Dead Daisies looking for trouble.
And you were looking for trouble.
But we weren't. I wasn't looking for any trouble, but that's talking about the way those songs came about. Some of them, Born Under a Bad Sign. Uh, like I said, Hellhounds on My Trail, Down at the Crossroads. This is all like, scary stuff a little bit,
Yeah, the original
basically.
Devil's music.
Yeah, it's like the original blues music. Either I'm back in that time, you could be a young man, and you could be, you know life was very fragile,
Mhm.
even more so, dangerous. And then you're like, I want to be a famous guitar player. I'm going to go down there and sell my soul, and that could be troublesome.
Yeah, good. It worked out for some of them though. So great.
Yeah,
Um, and what about live shows? Can we expect any of these songs to be featured in your shows?
yeah, we are doing. We actually last month and a half ago, we were doing some dates in Europe. We had a blast, so we're going back to Europe to do more dates. But we were featuring "I'm Ready," which is one of the songs on there, and later we did "Going Down," which is great. That's cool because it's like typical downstrokes. That's very Dead Daisies esque, kind of the Australian rock and roll thing that David Lowie grew up on. So we were doing "Going Down." That was going over really great. And also, I'm sure we're going to be doing more. We were doing Crossroads as well. So we'll see. Right now there's a single out called "Boom Boom." It's a John Lee Hooker song, and maybe that would be something that we'd want to do. It's such a fun track, um, and a very different style of guitar for me. So it's something fun. But yeah, we're definitely gonna feature some of the songs live, and who knows, maybe one day we'll do a whole set like of all blues stuff or something, something different just for a one-off
Yeah,
tour
that
or
would be a
something.
blast.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, and do you see this album as a one-off tribute, or maybe something that can find its way into the Dead Daisy sound in the future?
I mean, we'll see what happens. We're definitely it might reveal itself later. We haven't really thought about it at this point, and we didn't really think about something after. We didn't think about anything after
Mhm.
Looking for Trouble yet. We basically still, we're still kind of supporting the Light 'Em Up album. It has a lot
Yeah.
of great songs on it, and we're playing a lot of that stuff live, and it goes over great live. So we'll add some of the Looking for Trouble stuff. We'll see how it rubs off. Maybe it'll end up being we'll have a hybrid of some new material at some point. But it definitely influenced me personally. Just my um, opened up my heart again for this older blues music. It's really like the originals are like I want people to listen to the album and check it out, but then hopefully that will inspire them to go back and listen to some of those originals because it's really cool stuff. I mean, the Robert Johnson stuff is it's haunting. It's so simple and there's no like there's no it's just him and a guitar, on that stuff. And then and there's so much music, that's gone down over the years. There's so many artists. There's so many artists that we didn't even get a chance to touch on, but
Mhm.
you got your famous ones on the album that are pretty much covered, and all the Kings, Albert and Freddie and BB, and Howlin' Wolf. John Lee Hooker, Muddy Waters. There's and then there's so many others. So hopefully it'll inspire people to go back and listen to that stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. And all of this you were saying that I think it's deceptively simple. I mean, especially for a guitar player, it sounds simple, but deep down it isn't, is it?
Well, it is if you're just not thinking and you're relaxing and playing, and there are your traditional blues movements with music, 1-4-5 chord progression, and traditional. That's the thing that we use all, as guitar players. We started in the very beginning when I was a kid. We play the 1-4-5, we start with that, and so it is simple, but it's also like you really you got to be free and put your personality into it.
Yeah, yeah, it's gotta be yourself deep down. You already said that you are still promoting Let 'Em Up. There's a new tour coming up, I think, in Europe. Is there any Portuguese dates lined up or or planned?
Not on this run, unfortunately. I really, really, it's been a little while since we've been to Portugal, so would love to go and visit again and play. Obviously, would absolutely love it. We'll get there. I definitely want to get there at some point, and the band really, really loves it there. The country's always been great to us, so we'll see. Hopefully, if not this year, next year.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. Would be great to have you here and to talk to you personally and also to see your show. And what about new Dead Daisies original songs? Is there anything planned yet?
We haven't really talked about anything like that yet. I mean, there's a couple things that I've been home for a while. There's a couple things I've been kind of. I always, I come into this room. You can see I have a lot of fun in here. You can't see the whole room, but I have amps and guitars everywhere, and so I come in here and I just start playing around and I get inspired, and it's really like natural to start to come up with new ideas. So there's a few things I've been banging around, but we haven't talked about anything yet.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm sure that those things that you've been hanging around are great, and when they come out, hopefully I can talk to you again and do this again. Just to finish, if you could jam with any of the musicians that you covered on the album, cover one song, which musician would you choose, and which song would you cover?
Of the people on the album,
Yeah,
I would say probably one of the songs that turned out really it's probably not going to be it's probably not going to be a single or anything, but it's an important song on the album just for the vibe and the sound of it, which is "The Thrill Is Gone." And we took that thing, the original the version that BB King did was so cool. Um, we didn't really want to mess with it like that, in that version. So we did it in a little bit of a kind of like it's kind of like uh, a Led Zeppelin type of feel. We did it like a 6/8 feel, which is similar to "Since I've Been Loving You" by Zeppelin, also maybe "T for One," I think. But we were talking about how John Bonham would play on "The Thrill Is Gone," and then it turned into a 6/8 feel. Ta, doo, 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 ba, doo, doo, doo. And so we did our own version, and I'll tell you a little story. That was a little bit daunting for me because I really wanted to. I love that song. That was one of my suggestions. "The Thrill Is Gone," and so we're playing through it. We got the groove right. Sarah laid it down, and Michael Devon's playing great, and John's singing. And I'm just not thinking. It's the end of the day, and I was not thinking. Like we got through the arrangement, and I'd actually come up with a new part, a descending line that is at the end of the song. That's another thing on this album. I'll come back to the story, but another thing in this album is we kind of wrote some stuff and added it to the songs as well, which is cool. So we had this extra part for Thriller's Gone, and we finally got it together, and we played through it a couple times. And the last time we played it, it was like a full version. Everybody played, everybody sang, and it was like, that sounds good. Okay, let's quit for the day. And Marty Fredrickson, our producer, who he was a big reason that this thing happened, because he's like, let's get the sounds different. Let's do it something that we haven't done before on this with these songs. So we get done with The Thrill Is Gone, and he's like, okay, it's good. It sounds great, guys. That's our arrangement. That's our version. Let's have a look at it. Well, maybe we'll hit it fresh tomorrow. And I listened to it that night after we got home, and I listened to it in the morning, and I was like, wow, it's really freeform. I don't know if I can do it better. I don't know if I can do it better than I did it. And I was really nervous about it. And we played through it a couple more times, but the guitar was just, the drums sounded great. The guitar was had a vibe. It wasn't perfect. It was like there was little things I just said, Marty, there's things on this version. There's like 100 things I never would have done before. Like it wasn't like I can't learn it because it's just off of feel. It's totally with my mind blank, just playing, just in the song. And so it turned out great. It is what it is. I mean, all these songs were basically pretty much, once we got the arrangement, they were one take pretty much. You can tell it's not planned. It doesn't, it's not planned out. There's nothing planned. But the song turned out great, and it's one of my favorites on the album. The Thrill Is Gone. So I would say if I was going to go back and play it with somebody who did it originally, I would go back with. I would love to play with BB, and
Yeah.
not that he needs me. He doesn't. He wouldn't have needed me, but it would have been fun to play with. Now that I know the song, I could play with BB. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, Doug, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Would you like to send any message to your Portuguese fans?
Yeah, I want to say obrigado, and we love you guys, and we can't wait to see you again. Stay strong, stay healthy, and thanks so much for all your support. We really appreciate it.